Picture this. You're in the office parking lot. A guy in his 30s from accounting steps out of a beat-up Honda wearing the same Target polo you've seen before. He looks ordinary, but he's worth $1.8 million. Meanwhile, you grind 50-hour weeks, yet after rent and bills, there's nothing left. Millennials' inflation-adjusted wealth has more than doubled since the fourth quarter of 2019. And it's not just the ultra-rich. This wealth gain comes from everyday people using consistent, repeatable habits. Today, you'll discover the 7 habits of millionaires in their 30s and 40s. Not coffee-skipping hacks, but hidden moves ordinary people use to snowball into $1 million. Don't miss them. People your age are using these habits right now to build real millionaire wealth. The first habit of millionaires in your 30s and 40s is the reason you never worry about money again, even when you stop working. James Miller was 36 and living in Spokane, Washington, when his life hit a wall. No degree, no savings, no family money. Just a bucket, a rag, and the will to keep going. He went door to door offering window cleaning for $20. Most ignored him, some laughed, others slammed the door. Night after night, he stared at his empty fridge and asked himself, is this even worth it? Instead of quitting, he studied every no. He noticed which words made people pause, which gestures made them smile, which promises brought them back. He turned rejection into a process, trained helpers, boosted referrals. Then a big competitor moved in, slashing prices. People said it was over, but James adapted. He improved service, added touches others couldn't copy, and won back clients. 10 years later, he sold the company for 7 figures. And here's the twist. James didn't get rich cleaning windows. He got rich owning the system that cleaned them. James proved millionaires don't just trade time for money. They build assets that keep earning while they step back. But money alone doesn't buy freedom. The second habit of millionaires in your 30s and 40s isn't about making more. It's about unlocking something even bigger. Daniel Costa was 35 and living in Lisbon, Portugal, when he realized his 30s would decide the rest of his life. For nearly a decade, he worked as an IT consultant for a multinational firm. His salary was well into 6 figures in euros. He had no debt. Every year brought steady bonuses that could have funded a luxury lifestyle in one of Europe's most beautiful cities. But Daniel didn't live like that. Every morning, he made his own breakfast in his small kitchen. He still drove the same 2008 Peugeot 206 with a dent in the back door. He lived on just 30,000 euros a year. People laughed at him, called him stingy, mocked his car, his packed lunches, his budget vacations. But Daniel didn't care about impressing anyone. In his 30s, while others chased upgrades, he chased something else. He automated his savings, maxed out his investments every year, ignored the noise when others told him to live a little. Some nights, doubts crept in. Watching friends flaunt new watches and cars, he asked himself, am I missing out? But he stayed the course. And by his 40s, while his peers were still grinding for promotions and drowning in debt, Daniel walked away. No boss, no alarm clock, no stress. Daniel proved that frugality in your 30s and 40s isn't deprivation. It's a strategy that buys back time. If you want to see how far your own money can stretch, I made a free budget spreadsheet you can download in the YouTube description. It shows exactly where your money goes and how much freedom you're actually buying back each month. But saving and investing won't get you far if you can't push through the long, boring middle when progress feels invisible. That's why the third habit of millionaires in your 30s and 40s is the bridge between starting and winning. Eric Tan was 38 and living in Kuala Lumpur when he decided to start a YouTube channel. He had nothing but a mid-range Samsung Galaxy phone, an aging Dell Inspiron laptop, and a quiet dream. His goal was simple, 2 videos a week, every week. For years, he kept that pace. Most videos got under 100 views. One got 12, 8 from his mom. Eric poured hours into scripting in Google Docs, editing in Adobe Premiere Pro, and uploading through YouTube Studio, only to be met with silence. Every time he refreshed the analytics dashboard, the numbers barely moved. He questioned himself constantly. Is this even worth it? Am I wasting my time? Friends told him to quit, said it wasn't working, said he'd given it a good try. But Eric didn't stop. He redesigned thumbnails in Canva, studied hooks from creators like Ali Abdaal and Marquez Brownlee, and tracked every metric obsessively. He worked late into humid nights, sacrificed weekends, and pushed through burnout. Then, in year 5, something shifted. One video took off, then another, then 10 more. Sponsors called, products sold. Ad revenue surged. Today, his channel earns 6 figures a year. Eric proved success isn't a lightning strike. It's a slow burn. And the reward comes only if you refuse to disappear. But showing up alone isn't enough. At some point, you need to cross a line most people avoid. That's why the fourth habit of millionaires in your 30s and 40s goes against what you're taught. And it changes everything. Takumi Nakamura was 33 and living in Osaka when he first thought about investing. He had 12,000 yen in his account, about the cost of one nice dinner. It felt pointless. This won't make a difference, he thought. But instead of waiting, Takumi opened a brokerage account and bought a few shares. Within weeks, the value dropped. his stomach sank. He panicked, sold too soon, and locked in a loss. Most people would have quit. Takumi didn't. He read investing books on the Midosuji line, watched videos late at night, tracked every yen. He tried again, made more mistakes, learned more lessons. He discovered globally diversified index funds, holding thousands of companies worldwide. He understood compound growth. Every month, no matter how small, he invested, even if it meant skipping nights out or buying secondhand clothes. Meanwhile, his friend Kenji stayed on the sidelines. For years, he studied charts, waited for the perfect time, and never invested a yen. By his 40s, Takumi's portfolio had quietly grown past 10 million yen. Not from luck, not from wealth, but because he started small when it felt pointless and refused to stop. Takumi proved you don't wait until you're ready. You start, and then you become ready. But starting small only matters if you let time do the work. The fifth habit of millionaires in your 30s and 40s shows that you don't need big moves to build something huge. Ronald Read lived in Brattleboro, Vermont, a quiet town of 12,000. He wasn't a banker or business owner. He was a janitor at J.C. Penney and a gas station attendant. He drove a second-hand Toyota Yaris, wore the same flannel shirts, and patched his winter coat with duct tape. Most mornings, he ate breakfast at the local diner, reading the newspaper in the corner. Nobody thought he had money. Friends even offered to help him if he was struggling. But Ronald had started in his 30s with one simple habit. Every paycheck, no matter how small, he invested. Not in flashy startups, but in solid dividend-paying companies he understood. He bought and held for decades, reinvesting dividends each time. While others tried to time the market, Ronald let time do the work, quietly, patiently. By his 40s, he already had a growing nest egg. Decades later, the world discovered what those boring habits had created. When Ronald passed away in 2014 at age 92, the local paper revealed he had left nearly $8 million. Ronald proved the fifth habit of millionaires is letting compounding quietly do the work. If you want to see how compounding could play out in your life, try my free compound interest calculator in the YouTube description. It shows how long it takes to hit your first million and how quickly every extra 100,000 stacks on top. But patience alone isn't enough. Some people save and invest for decades and still never break through. Why? Because they missed the sixth habit of millionaires in your 30s and 40s. A habit that multiplies wealth faster than money alone. Sophia Lee was 34 and living in Toronto when her career stalled. She'd been a project coordinator at a mid-sized construction firm for 6 years, earning about 58,000 Canadian dollars. Her $1,400 basement rental in North York ate a quarter of her pay. She saved, she invested, she followed the rules, but promotions never came. Younger coworkers leapfrogged her. Friends bought $600,000 condos while she was still renting. Most nights she ate frozen dinners from Loblaws and scrolled Indeed, wondering, what's the point? Out of desperation, she dragged herself to a networking event at a WeWork downtown. The first time was humiliating. She stood alone clutching a Tim Hortons coffee while conversations swirled. When she tried to join, someone glanced at her name tag, smiled politely, and turned away. She went home crushed, but the next month she went back, and again. She stopped trying to impress and started helping, setting up chairs, introducing people, volunteering. Nearly 2 years later, it paid off. A late-night chat with a guest speaker turned into a job referral. Her salary jumped by $35,000. Later, a LinkedIn contact invited her into a $50,000 condo investment in Mississauga that doubled within 3 years. By 43, Sophia wasn't chasing opportunities. They were chasing her. Sophia proved wealth accelerates when you grow a network that opens doors money alone never could. But even the strongest network and the best investments won't matter if one disaster can wipe you out. That's why the seventh habit of millionaires in your 30s and 40s is different. It isn't about offense, it's about defense. Marcus Hill was 37 and living in Denver when he thought he'd lost everything. He had built a small graphic design side hustle into a full-time freelance business. His work paid the bills for his wife and 2 young kids. But when a big client suddenly canceled a $15,000 contract, his biggest source of income, Marcus was weeks away from maxing out credit cards and shutting down. Years of work nearly vanished overnight. That failure taught him something wealthy people in their 30s never forget. Defense matters more than offense. Marcus rebuilt smarter. He built a $20,000 emergency fund at First Bank. He diversified his income with retainer clients, digital products, and workshops. He finally paid for proper insurance so a single setback couldn't wipe him out. Within a few years, his design income was steady and predictable. But instead of inflating his lifestyle, he invested the extra cash, buying index funds, maxing out retirement accounts, and picking up a rental condo in Aurora. A decade later, those boring defensive choices made him a millionaire. Marcus proved wealth doesn't last if one disaster can wipe you out. True wealth isn't just about growing money, it's about keeping it. You've seen how millionaires in their 30s and 40s build and protect money. But here's the gap almost no one talks about. Once you've saved and invested, how do you actually live off it without working? Most people keep grinding for decades when they could already be free. Don't let that be you. Click the next video, and I'll show you how to live off interest alone.